everybody. We're going to be reading of the first book of Samuel, chapter 1. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim, of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephrathite. Notes. Now Elkanah, the father of Samuel, was a Levite, and he was of the order of the Kohathites, and they were responsible for the vessels of the sanctuary, recorded in Numbers chapter 3, verse 27 through 31. Verse 2. And he had two wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah, I suppose you could say. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Notes. Now we find that Elkanah was not untouched by the corruption of his day, for obviously he had two wives, and that's not exactly the right thing to do. Domestic misery was the result of this, and Hannah had no children, and in those days to be barren was considered to be a curse, which the following verses will bear out. Verse 3. And this man, who was Elkanah, went up out of his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice unto the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. Notes. Now this is talking about when the tabernacle was then at Shiloh. Scripture. And the two sons of Eli, the high priest, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. Notes. The latter two were evil men, and yet occupied officially a certain relationship to God. Under the covenant of law and its divinely appointed priesthood, such a position was possible. But under the covenant of grace, where there is no earthly priesthood, this is impossible. But men, not reorganizing the distinction between the two covenants, have invented an order of priests and clothed themselves with the sacramental powers of the sons of Aaron. And this is foolishness. Verse 4. And when the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife, and to all her sons and her daughters portions. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah, but the Lord had shut up her womb. Notes. The Lord did this for a particular purpose, as he does with everything for a particular purpose. It was a test of Hannah's faith, as everything is a test of faith, and every last bit of this is going to be meant for good. Verse 6. And her adversary also provoked her sore, for to make her fret, because the Lord had shut up her womb. Notes, this is talking about Peninnah, the other wife of Elkanah, and he's basically, they're just making fun of her, or she is anyways. Verse 7. And as he, Elkanah, did so year by year, when she who was Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, so she who was Peninnah provoked her. Therefore she who was Hannah wept and did not eat. Notes. This test went on for several years, and evidently Peninnah was provoking Hannah by telling her that she was cursed by God, and hence the failure to bear children. And this hurt her very much, as would be obvious, but yet the Lord allowed it to happen. So this test was not only for Hannah, but Peninnah as well, with the latter failing miserably. Verse 8. Then said Elkanah her husband to her, Hannah, why do you weep, and why do you not eat, and why is your heart grieved? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? Verse 9. So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Notes, this is talking about a peace offering, and it has absolutely nothing to do with alcoholic beverages. Scripture. Now Eli, the high priest, sat upon a seat of a post of the temple of the Lord. Notes. Now this is the first time the tabernacle is actually referred to as a temple. Verse 10. And she who was Hannah was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore. Notes. This is the type of praying that the Lord always hears and answers, that is, if such is in his perfect will. Verse 11. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, If you will indeed look on the affliction of your handmaid, and remember me, and not forget your handmaid, but will give unto your handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. Notes: Yahweh Sabaoth could be translated the Lord of armies, as in the case right here, O Lord of hosts. Now the word handmaid actually denotes a special kind of humility here, and she's trying to use that kind of as leverage to get God to give her a little boy. But in other words, she is going to dedicate this child as a Nazirite, even from birth, which he would be all of his life. This was her vow, basically. Verse 12. And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked her mouth. Notes: evidently, where she was praying, she could be seen by Eli, and he's taking note of it. Verse 13. Now Hannah, she spoke in her heart. Only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunk. Notes: praying silently, obviously. Now, two things are said here. Number one, Eli thinking that Hannah was drunk portrays that such must have been common at that time. And number two, the spirituality of the high priest evidently was not what it should have been, or he would have detected the godly spirit of this woman. I mean, come on, he's a nitwit. He's not doing the right things. Verse 14. And Eli said unto her, How long will you be drunk? Put away your wine from you. Notes: now obviously this must have stung Hannah quite a bit. But anyways, verse 15. And Hannah answered and said, No, my Lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Notes: evidently Eli had not been very much of he had not seen very much of such a prayerful attitude toward the tabernacle. Regrettably, much of the modern church falls into this same exact category, and the results are overwhelming. Verse 16, continuing, Count not your handmaid for a daughter of Belial, which is to say, worthless. For out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant you your petition that you have asked of him. Notes: whatever spiritual condition which characterized Eli, still God used him to give Hannah this great word of prophecy, and her prayer had been heard after all these years. Verse 18. And she said, Let your handmaid find grace in your sight. So the woman went her way and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. Notes: she knew the Lord had heard, and she knew the answer was on the way. It's a wonderful thing when one knows that the Lord has heard our petition and the answer is positive. Verse 19. And they rose up early in the morning and worshipped before the Lord, and returned and came to their house to Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. Notes: now, to know someone in this particular case means that they had sexual relations, and to the joy of everyone, she became pregnant. Verse 20. Wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come about, after Hannah had conceived, that she bore a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked him of the Lord. Notes: Samuel would be the last to judge Israel, and the first man to stand in the office of the prophet, according to Acts chapter 3, verse 24. In fact, he was one of the greatest men of God who ever lived. He will anoint David to be king, through whose family the Messiah would ultimately come. That's in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 1. Verse 11 through 13 of the same chapter, and in 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 11 through 13. And of course, we must pick up in chapter 1, verse 21 of the great book of Samuel. Thank you, and God bless.